Greetings, everybody. It's me, your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and this is my series, Nails in a Coffin, where we learn that with great kills, there must also come great nails. If you're watching this video on the day it goes up, we have 73 days left until Halloween. Last week, we started our stay in Haddonfield, and we're going to pretty much be here for the next few months. I covered the original Halloween last week on Nails in a Coffin, and we learned that it had an average Nails in a Coffin rating of 1.75 nails. And in case you missed the end of last week's episode, here are the last few moments. And I will see you here next week for Nails in a Coffin on Halloween 2. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and remember, with great... Not to worry, I was able to get away from Michael. Only had a few injuries, but I had a nice little secret weapon here, so I was able to get away from him. Did suffer a few injuries, and I do have a follow-up appointment at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and I'll be heading there as soon as I'm done recording this video. But before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love if you could hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss a video. I have a new Nails in a Coffin video out every Friday, and I have my Horror Movie Superlative series, which comes out every Wednesday. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you continue to help me grow this channel by hitting that subscribe button. So, thank you. Well, I'm going to have to keep my eye out for the shape while we're here in Haddonfield, so let's get started and put some Nails in a Coffin for Halloween 2. This movie picks up right after the ending of the original Halloween, right as Dr. Loomis shot Michael and he fell off the balcony to the ground below. But I can't remember how many times Dr. Loomis actually shot Michael.
I shot him 6 times. What? I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart.
In this movie's continuity, Michael does escape capture and Laurie is taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. After Michael was shot by Dr. Loomis and he falls off the balcony, he's able to get up and he walks to a nearby house and he enters Mr. and Mrs. Elrod's house while Mrs. Elrod is making a sandwich for Mr. Elrod, and he picks up a kitchen knife and he actually spares the lives of Mr. and Mrs. Elrod and he leaves the house. Michael then goes next door to Alice Martin's house. She's on the phone talking to one of her friends about the sirens outside and the news reports that are coming out about what happened to Laurie and her friends. Alice finds out that this happened just down the street from her house, so she's really freaked out. And when she's on the phone with her friend, Michael actually enters her house. She hears something in the other room and she turns around to see the front door open. She's asking who's there and she's slowly walking towards the front door. But Michael, who must have been hiding behind a chair or something, surprises her from behind, grabs her, and stabs her in the chest with the kitchen knife, killing her. For our first kill in Halloween 2, I'm going to award Alice 2 nails in a coffin. You know, she just found out that a killer was on the loose and very close by. You know, her front door was mysteriously opened, and she was cautiously, checking on the situation, only to be solid snaked by Michael. She definitely didn't deserve 1 nail in a coffin. Yeah, you could argue that maybe she should have ran and locked the door, or she should have locked the doors right away when she heard, a maniac was close by. But she didn't do enough that would lead me to believe that she deserved 1 nail in a coffin. And it was a surprise kill. And normally when I see surprise kills where the victim hasn't had much of a chance, I'm going to give them 2 nails in a coffin. Laurie's crush, Ben Tramer, is next. And it's the only death in the first 2 movies not by the hands of the Shape. Dr. Loomis is with Sheriff Brackett in his cop car looking for Michael. Dr. Loomis thinks he sees Michael down the street, so he gets out of the car and starts to run down the street, screaming, waving his gun at who he thinks is Michael. Ben Tramer, who does have a mask on, like Michael's, but with blonde hair, he crosses the street to get away from this maniac that he thinks, is chasing after him, Dr. Loomis. And he turns his head to see that Dr. Loomis is chasing him while he's in the middle of the street. And a moron police officer, for some reason, plows into him, crashes into a van, causing an explosion, killing Ben and engulfing him in flames. I'm going to give Ben 2 nails in a coffin. This was not his fault. It was the fault of Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Brackett and the moron cop driving the car. He didn't do anything wrong that led to his death, and I'm not going to fault him for crossing the street when a man was chasing him, screaming at him, waving a gun. Lots of stupid on this death. Lots of stupid, but none of it was on Ben Tramer. He didn't do anything wrong just by crossing the street to get away from some maniac. The poor kid didn't deserve this fate, and I wish I could give him more nails, but I'm only going to have to give this guy 2 nails in the coffin. While Michael is walking around Haddonfield, he bumps into a kid carrying a boombox. Michael bumps into this kid and he hears on the radio that the one survivor from the murders was taken to Haddonfield Memorial Clinic. Michael just so happens to be on the street and he sees a sign pointing to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and he turns the corner and goes to finish the job that he started with Laurie. We're going to spend the rest of our time this week at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. Michael arrives at the hospital and he cuts the phone lines and disables the cars in the parking lot. There is a deleted scene where he does cut the power to the building because the power is cut to the building and only emergency lighting is on, but that scene was cut from the theatrical release. But I do believe when this movie was shown on television, there was a scene of Michael actually cutting the power. So security guard Bernard goes to investigate the power outage and the fact that the phone lines are down. He leaves an extra walkie-talkie with one of the nurses, and he sees that one of the storage rooms has been broken into, and he's investigating the space. While he's looking around, he's opening some doors, and after he checks one of the storage closets and closes the door, there's Michael, who takes a claw hammer and slams it into the top of Bernard's head, killing him. Security guard Bernard is awarded 1 nail in the coffin. I tend to be harder when evaluating security guards and police officers. I did a lot of force protection and security when I was in the Navy, so I tend to see a lot of mistakes made by law enforcement in horror movies because these characters are often written very poorly. Bernard was very amateur when he was investigating the issue of no power or no phones, didn't call it in or anything. So when you do dumb mistakes like that and you're going out by yourself when there could be danger out there, bad things tend to happen to you, so you're definitely not going to get 2 nails in the coffin. So, Bernard, you're going to get 1 nail in the coffin. Paramedic Bud is Michael's next victim. He and Nurse Karen are in a physical therapy hot tub making out. Michael turns up the heat and Karen gets really too hot and she asks Bud to go turn the temperature down. So he gets out to lower the temperature, and as he does this, we see him through the door in the background, and Michael walks up behind him and strangles him to death with a cord. Now, if you watched my videos before, you can guess where I'm going to give Bud. He's going to get 2 nails in a coffin. He was in the middle of some hanky-panky, so I can imagine he was distracted. Michael grabbed him from behind and strangled him to death. Bud did struggle as much as possible from what we could see, so at least he tried to defend himself and get free, but overpowered by Michael's surprise kill from behind. Bud, 2 nails in the coffin. Right after Michael dispatches of Bud, he moves on to Karen, who is sitting on the edge of the tub. The temperature of the hot tub is still increasing. Now, she thinks Bud is standing behind her. Michael puts his hand on her shoulder, and she's kissing it and caressing it because she thinks it's Bud. Michael then grabs her head and holds it under the water of the hot tub. And he's bringing her head in and out a few times so we can see what the scalding water is doing to her face. And after a few moments, Karen does die from being drowned. Nurse Karen was the unfortunate victim of circumstance, but I'm going to give her 3 nails in a coffin. I have an issue with this kill, and it's not the drowning, it's the fact that a therapeutic hot tub in a hospital could get to such a high temperature that it could result in the skin being scalded off of someone's face and body. She had one arm held behind her back by Michael, and the other arm was trying to get Michael's hand off the back of her head. She was screaming and she was struggling. She did try and fight. You know, she was surprised from behind, but she had a chance. She fought as hard as she could, but it was of no avail because she was overpowered, and you had I would say, a malfunctioning hot tub to get that hot to be able to hurt somebody that much. But I'm going to be generous and give Karen 3 nails in the coffin. Dr. Mixter dies next, but this kill was off screen. Nurse Janet went to go find the doctor since Laurie was unresponsive in her hospital room. Janet gets to the office and he's in his chair, and she turns the chair around only to see the doctor in his chair with the syringe stabbed in his eyeball. The kill was off screen, so we're not going to give the doctor any nails. Right after Nurse Janet finds the doctor, Michael was standing behind her, hiding in the darkness. He grabs her, he puts one hand over her mouth, and in his other hand, he's got a syringe filled with air, and he quickly takes that syringe, plunges it into her temple, and pushes the plunger down, killing her in a brutal way. And this is the one kill that I remember most from this movie. I like the way it's shot, and it's dimly lit, and right after Janet's body slumps down to the ground, we do get a Michael head tilt as he's admiring his handiwork. I'm going to give Janet 2 nails in a coffin. When she saw the dead doctor, she was immediately in shock. But before she could really scream or do anything, Michael had grabbed her and put a hand over her mouth. While she's trying to figure out what's going on, she had no chance because Michael just took that syringe, stuck it into her temple, and pushed the plunger down. She didn't have much of a time or of a chance really to do anything to avoid her fate here because the power was cut out to the building. There were no phone lines. She was by herself. She really didn't know there was any danger out there. So taking all into consideration, Nurse Janet, I'm going to give you 2 nails in a coffin. We have another off-screen death, and it is Nurse Alves, who Jimmy finds her dead in an operating room with an IV in her arm and all the blood drained from her body. Her kill was off-screen. We didn't see what happened, so unfortunately, we're not going to be able to give her any nails. However, we can give Nurse Jill some nails in a coffin. She just returned from the parking lot where she saw that her car, as well as other cars in the parking lot, have been disabled. She goes back into the hospital and she finds Laurie staggering in one of the hallways. As the nurse is calling to Laurie to try and get her attention, Michael appears behind Jill and he stabs her in the back with the scalpel, lifting her off the ground in a violent death. I'm going to give Jill 2 nails in a coffin. I didn't see anything she did stupid that led to her death. As the second she saw Michael standing behind her, he had stabbed her in the back with the scalpel, lifting her off the ground. There's nothing that she could have done to avoid this situation that I saw. And if you're watching my channel for a while, when we get these surprise from behind kills where the victim didn't have much of a chance, they're going to get 2 nails in a coffin. And that's going to happen to Jill in this death. After Laurie sees Michael kill Jill, she takes off running. She's able to avoid him, and she eventually makes it outside to the parking lot. She hides in one of the cars, but Jimmy shows up to the car, but he slipped in some blood early, and he's probably concussed, so he passes out on the steering wheel. Laurie then gets out of the car, and she starts to crawl back towards the hospital entrance, and this is right as Dr. Loomis and U.S. Marshal Gummel arrive. And she's trying to call for help, but at this time, she really cannot get the words out. Laurie was able to get to her feet and run to the hospital entrance with Michael closely following behind her. She's banging on the door, and Dr. Loomis finally sees her, and he lets her in and closes the door. However, Michael just walks right through the glass door. Dr. Loomis shoots him until he goes down. And then the U.S. Marshal is standing over Michael's prone body. Dr. Loomis is screaming at him to get away. But the Marshal wants to bend down to check on Michael. So we can all pretty much guess what's going to happen here. Michael wakes up, grabs the Marshal, and slashes his throat with the scalpel. You guessed it right. This moron is going to get 1 nail in the coffin. Like most law enforcement officers in horror movies, they're written very poorly and stupid most of the time. He knew Michael was dangerous, and he still had a weapon in his hand, yet he chose to kneel down right on top of him. He did a lot of wrong here. He should have done so many things differently. He should have kicked the scalpel out of his hand. He should at least try to handcuff him or do something if you weren't sure he was dead, but you just pretty much leaned over him and gave yourself to him. So this moron law enforcement officer is getting 1 nail in a coffin, and I'm going to say he's pretty lucky I didn't give this idiot 0 nails in the coffin. We're now at the finale of the movie. Laurie is hiding from Michael in one of the operating rooms. Dr. Loomis gives him his gun so she can protect herself. Michael breaks into the room. He stabs Loomis, and now he's approaching Laurie. She's crouched down on the floor, and she shoots him 2 times. And it looks like she shoots him in both eyes since blood is trickling down over his mask, and he appears to be blinded. And he's swiping the scalpel around the room. And as this is happening, Dr. Loomis and Laurie open all the ether tanks to the room. Laurie gets out of the room, and Dr. Loomis is looking at Michael, and he takes his lighter, flicks it on, the room explodes into flames, And Laurie is then out in the hallway, and we see Michael walking completely engulfed into flames, and then he falls down to the floor and supposedly dies. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my Nails in a Coffin for Halloween 2. Here's a summary of all the nails I've awarded. And so far, we can see that Halloween had an average of 1.75 nails, and Halloween 2 has an average of 1.87 nails. Thanks for checking out this video, and let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with any of the nails I've awarded. I love to read your comments. And be sure to come back here next Friday when I cover the divisive Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks again, and I'm on my way to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital for my follow-up medical appointment, and I will see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, stay safe, stay happy, stay frosty. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.